What is up, everybody? Welcome to Truth and Transparency Sunday nights. Hope you guys have had a great weekend. Idaho4 Corner Club cameras and live discussion. We've been pumping out a lot. I'm exhausted. We made candles last night. Christmas candles. We got to name our candles. I wanted to name my candle Coming on Christmas, but I was told that was inappropriate. So I settled with Scrooge's Den. Yeah. I mixed my let's see what I use. I use the Christmas tree smell with like bonsai smell with like vintage book smell. Yeah. So but I wanted to name my candle Coming on Christmas, but I wasn't allowed to. So that was inappropriate. I said, but Santa coming down the chimney isn't. So we had a blast. Anyways, hope you guys had a great weekend. Santa's secret hookup. I asked if I could name my candle that. They said all of my options were really inappropriate. So Scrooge's Den is what my candle ended up being named, or something like that. Screwing Scrooge in the Den. Anyways, it's starting to snow here. How about you guys? It's getting dark here a lot earlier. I think I'm going to be bumping up my 9 o'clock lives to like 8 because I feel like it's midnight when I look around and I'm like, geez. So I may change my lives on Sunday nights to 8 p.m. So come on, guys. You guys know I would have named my candle Bill Thompson's office smell. Like, you guys don't believe me. I'm going to show you guys about my candle here. Ugh. Here it is. You can go to a place and instead of like, buying them already made, you can make your own. So you went and did that last night. Then you get to name your candle A Vintage Christmas Story. That's one of them. Smells like balls fur. That's what I call it, balls fur. So the other one was named Coming Home on Christmas. Bill Thompson's Den. I don't know. I made like 5 of them. We were sitting around a bunch of random people. We were all talking about what we were naming our candles. And I said, it's named after the Idaho prosecutor. And they didn't believe me. And I whipped out my phone and I showed them a picture of Bill Thompson. And then they said, oh, wow, you weren't kidding. I said, nope. I always get something around Christmas time for Bill Thompson. I think I got a mug a couple years ago. So I got to send him and Ashley something this year. So maybe they'll get the new FOIA shirts. FOIA around, what is it? FOIA and fuck around. I don't know. I think we put it out there. So Daria, damn, I'm 3-month-old baby. It's flying by, isn't it? All right. So guess what I did yesterday? Was it yesterday? Today? I went back out and pulled all of the stuff that Ann Taylor filed back in 2023. And I wanted to point out that Ann Taylor makes a note and she says, when they had to waive Brian's right to a speedy trial. It was a 1-page document that Brian signed, and it said basically it was the advices of his attorney as well. Ann Taylor pushed the preliminary hearing to 6 months back. Then after they go ahead and do a secret grand jury, then he ends up having to waive his right to a speedy trial. And I keep on wondering if Ann Taylor could do it all over, would she have ever agreed to have a preliminary hearing 6 months down the road? I mean, 6 months is a long time. And what did she really think that Bill Thompson was going to do? Anyways, the moral of the story is I went and took a peek at Ashley Jennings' lovely ass in her filing on from November 20th, 2023. And Ashley Jennings talks about all of their state's response to all the different discovery requests. And on paper, it would look really, really good. It would look like, hey, we're answering all of your questions. You're doing these supplemental requests and we're getting back to you, all of these things, right? Well, I want to show you how ridiculous it looks now. Okay, so I'm going to show you something on Hector really quick, and then we're going to play a little bit of this corner club. These are the exhibits the state was going to use to show that the girls are here, having fun, happy, that Jack Showalter is there. They're all hanging out. It's not like he's a stranger. I think actually the video shows, in my personal opinion, the only argument that I think that it does not show is this intoxication level. That they're just so intoxicated or something like that. That's not what the jury was going to think from this video. But I'm really happy that Maddie and Kaylee got to go out and got to be with each other. It's hard to watch, sad. In the Karen Reed case, everybody in the bar, when they were showing the different videos, nobody was like blurred out like this. Here, every video that we obtained from the corner club, from Latah County Moscow Police Department, they went ahead and they literally blurred out every single person except for Maddie and Kaylee. I mean, these people are 21. Okay, even if they're 18, they're not a minor. I just can't believe that they literally put out a video like this. If you requested this is how you got it. They literally blurred out every single head. You can pay attention to what people's, like, their clothing, their shoes, and we can kind of gauge, like, on some of the people. I caught Jack D in one picture frame where he was not covered up, so I have that. I can show you guys that. Yeah, let's take a look at this, though. I'm going to share. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is just to remind everybody. So, well, first of all, let's talk about the chain of custody database being changed months later by someone in the lab that didn't even work with the sheath or the vial. Let's just point out how easy this was to do, and Ann Taylor asked for it. So this is from Riley Nolan, as you can see from, and then 2 is to Shannon. Again, she was on the witness list. Both of these 2 ladies were, unless Shannon's a dude, because sometimes the name Shannon could be a dude's name. So I guess we know all about that from the Karen Reed case. But I want to point this out that right here it says, Shannon, comma, because Rylene's writing to her. This is the reference sample that was sent to the FBI. The chain states it was returned to the submitting agency. You will need to request a chain correction and ask that it be changed to the custodian of evidence disposition, meridian, and location released to the FBI. Now, I think this is hilarious because 2 things. Number 1, well, you're going to see how this gets changed. Number 1 is Shannon can't do it. So Shannon sends this to the forensic services, like as a their group email. Hi, can you please correct the chain of item number 108, change from return to submitting agency to, blah, blah. This case is locked, so I am not able to see information on it unless Riley unlocks it for me. How did this get locked? So I just have some questions about this because we'd be making stuff up to tell. I don't know. I've never worked there. I have no idea how this works, but something seems off when it's in February of 2023. Like they are still testing things. What do you mean you're locked out? So this is off to me. But more importantly, then you get this Brittany Wiley chick that's going to answer this. And she says, I have corrected this. Okay, Brittany. I know Brittany from the Dr. Moore case. Brittany had done work with the ballistics in the Dr. Moore case, which his son's gun was not a match to anything. A bunch of fucking idiots over there. They knew it wasn't a match to anything, but yet they tested a gun that they knew wasn't a match. Absolutely. And they ruined a collector's item for this I shouldn't say a little kid, but for this kid who got it when he was a kid. But Brittany had nothing to do with Dick, but she could go in there and just correct this item. This is chain of custody. You can just like go in and like, and why are you changing it? The reason this is significant is this is the vial with the sheath and anything that was coming from, I want to say, Author back, whatever was released then to the FBI. However, this mumble jumble bullshit was like, this is what we're dealing with. It's basically saying that the FBI never got it, and it actually went back to the Idaho State Police. So why would it ever be charted that way? And someone saying, no, you have to correct that error. Well, whoever did it in the first place, why would you ever go in? I mean, I'm going to show you another picture here because it's not just something this isn't just a goof like, oh, I just hit the enter button. No, you got to go in and like do a bunch of shit with like these tabs. Okay. And so we're not just going to let people off the hook. They're going to have to explain this. Somebody go in and you're able to just, start if you're trying to change stuff. But here's like these ads. So if you're adding an item number and the packaging type and the item type, and I'm just trying to show you like this is how this database looks like when you're entering something into a database. This isn't just, oh God, how could I possibly make this mistake? Like somebody went in there and on this certain date and said that they sent it to the submitting agency. And then here they're always having these fuck ups with anything that has to do with the sheath. It's always just, wow, whoa. So I just wanted you guys to see that this is not just, oh, I just don't even know what I'm doing, or I just pressed enter. I have no idea how this happened. No, you have to really fuck some shit up. AKA, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. You must be drunk. Okay. You have to be like high. But somebody went in and changed, or not, I shouldn't say changed, but entered it into the database that it went back to Moscow Police Department. And then if you look at the date, February 6, 2023, Riley somehow catches this. And it's like, this is the reference sample that was sent to the FBI. The chain states it was returned to the submitting agency. You will need to request a chain correction and ask that it be changed to the custody of evidence disposition meridian and location released to FBI. What does that even mean? Like, and then so what the woman just writes is she just writes this in quotes. Released to FBI. FBI who? Who from the FBI did you release this to? I mean, how vague is that? I just released this to the FBI. What? I think it's also vague to say that I just released it to the submitting agency. Who are you releasing items to from the lab? Like, don't you think that would be, you would want more documentation than that? I would think so. Okay. So, all right. How do I want to begin this to show you guys so I can have you remember some stuff? Do you remember? Okay. All right. So Ann Taylor's asking for, these are all the dates of her supplemental requests that matter for this demonstration. 1 through 10. 123, 2023, then 324, 5, 1, 6, 16. So basically they're almost like once every month. Okay. More or less. And then I think 8 and 9 were filed together. That's what there wasn't a date. So as you can see from after she did her initial, which was January 10th, then these are all the supplementals. So supplemental 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm just going to 10. She went all the way to like 24. Okay. And the only reason I'm going to 10 is because that's all that matters for me to show you what a huge issue that I have with anybody that wants to say that anything was going down fair procedurally or fundamental fairness, prosecutorial misconduct. Like, I'm going to show you how, whoa. So those are the dates. And I want to show you what Ashley Jennings files on November 20th. It's the state's response to defendant's 10th supplemental request for discovery. And she's saying that Ann Taylor asked for this on November 8th. Here we are on the 20th. And then she just wants to let the courts, give the courts a reminder. And she's just saying, now this is right after, so Brian Kober waived his right to a speedy trial on August 23rd, 2023, August 23rd. And right before that, Bill Thompson and Ashley Jennings were freaking out. Like, holy shit, like, we're really going to trial in October? Like, we can't go to trial in October. Because what they're doing is during all of the time that Ann Taylor's asking for all this discovery, guess what the state is doing? They're not turning anything over. How can I prove that? This document's going to show you. So, Ann Taylor requests something on the 10th, the first time. So that's the state's response to request for discovery, the initial one. Then you can see state's response to defendant's first supplemental request. This is the date she filed it. And then February 21st is when, so it's misleading to the courts to say that on this day is when we fulfilled that obligation. Okay. But here, state's response to defendant's second supplemental request. See, I circle it because that's the second one. They're making it seem like that Ann Taylor asked for it on 3/24, and hey, look it, we got her that shit on March 29th. Like, we're not holding up anything. State's response to defendant's third supplemental request, filed May 12th. She's like, well, we answered on May 12th, but Ann Taylor asked for it on May 1st. Look at, we're totally all over this, right? Not so fast. State's supplemental. You guys know what that word supplemental means? That means in addition to. I have to supplement. So I'm supplementing. I'm adding to the defendant's first, second, and third. So back up here. So all of these at first, second, third. Remember how she's Ashley Jennings over here filing stuff saying, yep, look at, she asked for something on the 1st. We gave it to her on the 12th. Well, then why are you over here, Ashley, on June 8th, 2023, state's supplemental response to defendant's first, second, and third supplemental requests? Okay. And what I'm showing here is that they were 1 month to 5 months later, getting whatever she wants to hand off here on June 8th. Now, remember, Brian Kober still has, this was right after, in May, they go see your grand jury. Okay. And then in June, they go and they move to put a protective order in June on the IGG stuff. Okay. And I just want to remind everybody what Jay did. Okay. So June 22nd, literally, this is one of my favorite filings I've ever had in any case. Brian Kober, by and through his attorney, J. Weston Lawson, Chief Deputy Litigation, and hereby objects to the state's motion for a protective order filed June 16th. So right after they get their way and they get this grand jury, okay, Ann Taylor's been asking for a shit ton of things. With the third supplemental request, the stuff that's in that has everything to do with DNA, okay? I went over this the other day. I just want you guys to see how egregious this is. Ashley Jennings supplementing stuff that Ann Taylor had asked for hella long ago. Why? Well, because here at the end of June, they had a hearing. It was June 26th, June 27th of 2023. See state's response to defendant's fourth supplemental request. Look at, June 16th. And I'm like, she's over here acting like that's when Ann Taylor asked for it. Ashley's over here like, I'm giving it to her on the same day. The fuck you are, Ashley? Okay, you're getting like a couple of them. How do we know this? Because it will come back up that they're supplementing the fourth response down the road. Look at, they supplemented state's supplemental response to defendant's second supplemental request. Yeah, up here. Look at, still trickling in this stuff. July 12th, 2023. Brian Kober hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial yet. This is where Ashley Jennings is freaking out. Bill Thompson, they're losing their shit. They're like, holy shit, like he's really not going to waive. He's really not going to waive his right to a speedy trial. So right after all of this is going on in June, well, Ann Taylor knows she had to have seen something, and I'm guessing it's one of the we don't need to guess. Ann Taylor saw something, okay? And then what she does is she's asking for stuff, and it's signaling to these cheaters, we know that you use investigative genetic genealogy, or that you're trying to say that you used it, okay? But I need to point something out. So J files, after they do a protective order, because they're like, they don't want to give up any IgG stuff, it's not discoverable. J files this, and I want to remind everybody what he says. He says, the state apparently thinks that they do not need to explain how they came to think that it was Mr. Kober's DNA on the sheath. Okay. This is when I was like, exactly. How did you get to Brian Kober? Why were you ever going and trying to get his DNA in the first place, right? How did you get there? Presumably, the defense is expected to accept at face value that the sheath had touched DNA just waiting for testing by all the FBI's Madrid resources. Additionally, the defense is to guess whether the state focused its investigation on Mr. Kober via a bizarrely complex DNA tree experiment or through its faulty identification of the vehicle involved in this case. Now, let's go back to this. How they ever determined that it was an Elantra. Okay. And if we go back on 11/25, when they determined to say, hey, let's go ask for, let's put a bolo out to the local law enforcement peoples, not to all of us in the public that comes in December, but on 11/25, the FBI at that point has never said that it's an Elantra, ever once. In fact, they said 7 different make and models that car could have been. 7 different types of make and models. So if we go back and we think about this, why aren't they looking for any type of, why would it be an Elantra? If the guy is saying, especially when you're going off of the Ridge Road camera, because the ones on 1112, they flat out said that nothing can be determined from that. We're not going to ever say that we can identify any car from the videos that came out of 1112. So think about that. Just truly think about, if you're truly running an investigation, how you could ever say let's just tell people to look for 1 out of 7 make and models. And then think about this needle in a haystack. If you don't want, this is what tells me that Brian Culver's name came from somewhere else. And that, wow, the one vehicle that the make and model that we do pick and we decide to go with on 1125 and we give it to the Pullman people, the Pullman police, that the first 1 to 7 vehicles that one of the guys puts in his spreadsheet is Brian Culver's. That's some fucking crazy shit. Like, you know what those odds are? I love numbers. Those odds are just astronomically, like, wow. Like, just wow. Now, Jay goes on to say that perhaps, unsurprisingly, Mr. Culver does not accept that his defense does not need this information. It rather obviously falls within the Rule 16 B4 and 5, a fact the state's briefing makes clear in its kitchen sink approach to their briefing. The state begins their argument claiming Rule 16 has no interest in IgG testing, and then ends their argument claiming that somehow people will stop sharing their genetics if they were to realize the government is watching. Both arguments must fail. Okay. To begin with, the state apparently only wants to prevent Mr. Culver from seeing how the IgG profile was created and how many other people the FBI chose to ignore during their investigation. So now think about this. When, let's go back to all of this. When you want to talk about prosecutorial misconduct, when you write, whether it's a motion, anything that you're going to write as a lawyer and submit it, okay? You can't knowingly know something and write the opposite. Okay, that is the definition of prosecutorial misconduct. Okay, I mean, the definition of it. So with everything that we now know, right? We now know that Bill Thompson, Ashley Jennings, they were calling the shots from jump. Bill Thompson is the one that approved and okayed, yep, we're going to do IgG off the rip on 11, like they talked about it on the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th. Because they said if they can't get anything out of CODIS, that they're going to go to the molecular genetic, blah, 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 however he wanted to word it. And Riley put it in that on an 1120 write-up, okay? So think about that. Now, Ashley and Bill would write up things and argue things and act like, remember, we have no idea who the identity and who did the FBI cast work. You guys knew it was Nick Balance 2 days in when Ashley Jennings is actually writing the fucking search warrants, right? And doing the language, and Mowry sharing emails and saying, you know, Nick Balance said to make sure that you add this language and stuff like that. Ashley and Bill were acting in front of judges like they didn't know who people were. Now, this is back judge time. Okay. Because this hasn't moved. And there was arguments, and I know the dates now of everything. I laid them all out. And what they're acting like things don't exist. We don't have that. We don't know that. We have to get stuff from the FBI. Oh, the same people that were co-located. You don't have to get shit from the FBI. You know these people's names. They had to be submitting things to you. They were so in the know. Okay. So to go back and look at all of this delay tactic of not giving Brian Culver his discovery, which Ann Taylor actually puts in very well said in one of these, I'm going to show you. And I'm just over here curious of like, what could eventually come by all of this down the road? Can anything come from this? Because it's bad. It's bad. Like this is, I mean, it's just so obvious. It's blatant. It's blatant. So I want to continue reading this. Hold on. Okay, right here. This is one of my arguments, which is in essence, right? In essence, the state argues that if the later STR testing is accurate, then there is no reason to concern ourselves with how the state came to investigate Mr. Kohlberger. State's brief at 9. What the state's argument asks this court and Mr. Kohlberger to assume is that the DNA on the sheath was placed there by Mr. Kohlberger and not someone else during an investigation that spans hundreds of members of law enforcement and apparently at least one lab the state refuses to name. I remember I told you I said, hey, I think this is like a pretty much of a bombshell here. This is also proof to show you that the defense never thought that Othram did all the lab work. In fact, the way that it was presented is that the FBI took the work over from Othram and then did it themselves with their own lab people, because they made it seem like the FBI had, like Othram had whatever they, their SNP, and then here the FBI's doubled in size. Okay. Well, and I came out and I said, you guys, Othram they're the only lab that worked on this. Like, what the fuck? What? But here, look at the defense is thinking that there's another lab involved. They're not thinking that because they're idiots. They're thinking that because of what the fuck they've been told. They've been told this shit. Jay isn't writing this up and putting this in here because they weren't told this. In fact, they wrote it in their own damn brief. So now, perhaps most puzzling is the state's argument that while Rule 16b-5 requires them to turn over the results or reports from scientific investigations, they're saying here that, it does not require the state to disclose what law enforcement does with the results or reports. State's brief at 14. First of all, that sounds like an admission that the information as to how the IgG was carried out should be disclosed. Second, what law enforcement does with results or reports is covered by Rule 16b-6. Statements of prosecution witnesses, and 8, police reports. Frankly, the fact that the members of the FBI are so concerned about permitting Mr. Kohlberger to know what they were up to with what was supposedly his DNA does not give one the impression that there is nothing to see here, as the state seems to imply. Finally, the state's claim that ICR 16G2 applies to this matter is quite bizarre. Presumably, the independent company the government relied on was paid for its work and would stand by it in a court. The state provides no real argument as to why the company needs to be protected. Mr. Kohlberger is left to suspect they wish to keep their methods from being questioned to the extent that there is some concern about intellectual property that can be addressed via a protective order that permits Mr. Kohlberger and his defense team to review their work. And this is why I've said it, and I'm going to say it now here again. There is no work. Othram created the SNP, okay? That means they created, here's the SNP profile, okay? There has been no work presented to show how any family tree was built. None. So remember what I said? I said, how can we not start asking ourselves, when are we going to really strongly consider the fact that they hid behind IgG and acted like that's how they got to Brian Kohlberger, but really that's not how they got to him? Because all my chips are in for that. Now over here, oh boy, that's not what I want to do. It's a little smaller. Okay. Second, the state appears to argue that everyone living on Earth that provides genetic information is A, unaware that their DNA could be used by a government somewhere for something, and B, is an informant within the meaning of the term in the rule. The state citation to cases involving actual informants hardly help it make this credible leap. No court has ever found the existence of a DNA informant. You guys, I just love you guys. This is my favorite filing I've ever read and ever seen in my entire life. Karen Reed, they had some good filings. This filing takes the fucking cake. I am telling you, man. Dude, Jay, I used to love reading Jay's work. You could totally tell when Jay writes a document. This is fucking wild, man. Absolutely wild. Because this is so true. Like, wait, now we have DNA informants. And this all came because they never were going to disclose ever that they use investigative genetic genealogy, right? But it's such a great fucking tool. But we can never tell anybody that we used it, right? Bizarre. Like, nothing to see here. There's everything to see here. And then people can go out there and say, well, we didn't want to act like we used it because we used it illegal, like unethically. Okay. There's cases out there where it's been used unethically and it's upheld. Okay. How about who was going to testify they actually did that built a tree? Who's going to get on that stand and say that they were the investigative genetic genealogists who took the SNP and the information from it and started to try to develop this family out of Pennsylvania? I know I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not raising my hand for that. If you didn't do that, would you raise your hand for that? You're going to get absolutely annihilated on that stand. But we all have to come back to this. So in June, they're basically admitting to us that the PCA is bullshit, right? That the PCA is bullshit. Now, in May, right after they said, Brian Kober, you're indicted by the grand jury. May 19th, she files, Ann Taylor files and says, I want all of the stuff from the grand jury. We want a copy of, the petitions for summoning a grand jury. We want she lists like 40 things off that she wants. Then, let me finish. I want to finish one other part here. Now, they are already all over the fact that there's only certain databases that allow government to go in. And if you don't have a receipt, then that means you did not go in as a government. You were not listing it as this is a government kit, law enforcement kit, blah, blah. Like, you have to have a receipt for that. They clearly didn't have that. They've never had that. But how about this part? In any case, it is hard to understand why Mr. Kober should be the one to suffer because these companies and our government chose to either mislead or not educate the public. According to, and then they're going to cite just about turning over your DNA or not and being in a third party. Mr. Kober has reasons to be extremely suspicious of the IgG used in this case. Rather than seeing it as some sort of complex tree building that led to him, it appears far more like a lineup where the government was already aware of who they wanted to target. Oh, how we forget. Oh, how we forget all of this shit that was going on in Latah. When here, now, everything that we now know, okay? Can you imagine the frustration if you're trying to get and obtain, give me the discovery, give me my discovery so I can defend myself. Guilty, not guilty, I don't give a shit. Give me the fucking shit. Who the fuck do you think you are? And then Ashley and Bill are acting like it doesn't exist. We don't have it. If we can't give you something that we don't have. They were co-located. These weren't FBI agents that were in different states. And in fact, when we find out that Ashley Jennings this whole time was in personal contact with these people on a daily basis because she was being debriefed every fucking day. Like, you have the balls to do this as co-workers. Like, these should be colleagues. Ann Taylor is a colleague of Bill Thompson. These are colleagues, and this is what you're not supposed to do shit like this. This is like a no-no. It's also a no-no for lawyers to sue other lawyers or be somebody's attorney that's going to go try to do whatever. Okay? This isn't how you play. Now remember this. At the time, they're up against this speedy trial clock. Okay? And I want to know if Brian Colbert would have went to court and actually went to trial in October, let's say, of 2023, and does not waive it and fuck yeah, let's go. If he's not supplied material that would have been considered Brady, right? Exculpatory shit, we would have just been doing it all over again. So again, I struggle over here to understand why they did not have a trial in October and really like put the match to the flame and here you go. Because Brian Colbert was not in possession of anything that he would have been entitled to and that they had. So let's say that he's convicted. Well, during everything that would be post-conviction, and they're going and obtaining, like they did here in the Scott Peterson case, all the stuff that they went and buried and hid and all this shit. Like that's what gets cases overturned. Anyways. Rather than have the investigation done by someone blind to the fact, the FBI chose to do it themselves. This is akin to the police pulling in Mr. Colbert and 5 of his cousins off the street and then pointing at him. Now, I think Jay's argument would have even been stronger had he even had more information. The stuff that, came out in 2024. Now, Mr. Colbert finds himself in a similar position as Mr. Ortega. A massive investigation basically led to him, right? So this massive investigation came to focus on him and him alone. The state appears to be trying to hide its original domino, such that he cannot discover why. Mr. Colbert has a right to discover and question the investigation that led to him. Keywords here. Hide the original domino. And then so I went back and wanted to bring this to you guys to say yes. And guess what? The original domino was not even IGG. Sorry, I just don't believe it. And on 11/25, it tells me that I shouldn't believe it. Also, what Jay says that we should all look into is the fact that Jay thinks. Look at this. Okay. So this is the way that they see the case when they say factual background back then. Jay says, on November 13th, law enforcement responded. Okay, that doesn't pretty much change. But right here it says, law enforcement later found a K-bar knife sheath placed next to Miss Mogan on her bed. The sheath was placed button side down and partially under Miss Mogan and the comforter. On November 20th, 2022, the Idaho State Police Lab in Meridian, Idaho, located DNA on the button of the sheath and performed STR analysis that led nowhere when ran through CODIS. Now, where does he get that from? Now, think about this. When he's writing this in June, it ran through CODIS, other than to show the provider was male. By December 17th, 2022, lab analysis were aware of 2 additional males' DNA within the house where the deceased were located, and another unknown male DNA on a glove found outside the residence on November 20th, 2022. Okay, ready? They, at this time, I don't even think Jay knows that there is a mixture on the sheath. Think about that. Writing this up in June of 2023, he doesn't even know that there is a unknown male, another unknown male on that sheath. What do you think about that? When you go back and you read these, you can tell what they know at that point, what they don't know at that point. And I want to settle this once and for all. The state asked for a protective order. So I'm going to here. No, not that one. Boy. Oh, here it is, 16. Okay. All right, I'm going to share this now. We're all wondering where it came from, where we're talking about, like, there was nothing on the button. Okay. Well, this is the filing on June 16th, what Jay responded to, what you guys just read, what I read little pieces of. Okay. So take a look at this. Comes now in the state of Idaho, right? And it's asking for a protective order related to investigative genetic genealogy. This case arises from a quadruple homicide. Law enforcement found the DNA of a potential suspect at the crime scene, and the FBI submitted the DNA to one or more publicly available genetic genealogy services. Hang tight. Right there. I've already talked about this once, maybe 4 or 5 times, but I need to remind everybody, this is so important. Do you see it says that the FBI submitted the DNA to one or more publicly. This is the state telling us that the FBI did it. Okay? That the FBI, I'm going to zoom in. Doesn't say Othram. Okay? The FBI did it. The FBI then used common genealogical techniques to develop a family tree leading to defendant. Okay. The FBI, hey? And this is why I'm just like, hey, Othram, hey, Middlemans, this is why I want to have an interview with you. This is why the world thinks what they think. And then the state seeks to protect from disclosure the names and personal information of the hundreds of innocent relatives on the family tree. There is no tree. Because how do you file something like this and then you turn around and you say, well, there's no work though. There's no work. What? Then, factual background. Now, this is the state's factual background. All 4 victims died from apparent knife wounds. Law enforcement found a K-bar knife sheath on a bed next to the bodies of Madison and Kaylee. The sheath was face down and partially under both Madison's body and the comforter on the bed. So the sheath was face down. Law enforcement seized the K-bar knife sheath pursuant to a search warrant. The Idaho State Police lab in Meridian, Idaho, located DNA on the K-bar knife sheath. The ISP laboratory determined the DNA came from a single source and that the source was male. Once law enforcement had single source DNA from the K-bar knife sheath, right there is, when they talk like this is a hint. Okay? This is a way for them to get around things down the road. Because what do you mean once they had single source? Oh, because that's allowing us right there. There's DNA on there that's not single source. That's what that tells me. That's what it tells me. And now look at it, right? They conducted what is called a short tandem analysis, blah, blah, and then they put it in. Law enforcement submitted the STR DNA profile obtained from the K-bar knife sheath to the CODIS, a database, and it said no match was found. Unable to find a match. Remember, I was like, why aren't they using any dates? Unable to find a match using STR DNA analysis, law enforcement decided to use Bill Thompson. Bill Thompson. We have it in writing now. Bill Thompson gave the okay to use investigative genetic genealogy, which he's supposed to be in on the decision. It's supposed to be the prosecutor, the lead investigator, but it's also supposed to be the last thing that you do. But here, law enforcement decided to use investigative genetic genealogy to find a lead. Genetic genealogy allows individuals to trace, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We're going to go to this part, which is okay. This same process, used frequently by members of the public, can also be used by law enforcement as part of their investigation. A technique referred to as investigative genetic genealogy. Yeah, but we don't take people's DNA. We have our own. And if you want to do it, you have to go through a different site, or you have to go through a different way through the site. And you have to admit that you're a law enforcement kit that you're putting into the database, because there's people that opted out. In this case, investigators used IgG to begin the process of developing a lead to the individual who left DNA on the K-bar knife sheath. The Idaho State Police utilized a private laboratory to develop a SNP profile from the DNA on the K-bar knife sheath. The private laboratory started using genetic genealogy to develop a family tree. But after law enforcement decided the FBI would take over, the private laboratory ceased its efforts and sent the SNP profile to the FBI. Now do you see why I brought up the chain of custody? Okay. But after law enforcement decided the FBI would take over, the private laboratory ceased its efforts and sent the SNP profile to the FBI. Really, because chain of custody didn't say that. Chain of custody said something else. Chain of custody did not say this. And they went in and they changed it so that it said this on February of 2023. Like, what? That's like, how, what? Last time I checked, when somebody does something like, and they work at Walmart even, and I mean, they're called like a clerk, when they check you out, okay, it has like the store number on your receipt. It has the clerk who checked you out, right? And so therefore, if something was fucked up, they would be like, hey, Tommy, come here. You checked this person out a couple days ago. What is all this shit? Why is everything marked down 50, 75% off and you only charge them like $3 when this should have been like 300, versus like, oh, you're not going to try to get to the bottom of who made this big mistake. No, Walmart will, hey, Tommy, get over here. You rang this person out. Idaho State Police Lab is like, hey, months later, murder investigation. Oh, hey, the chain of custody sheet's wrong. You're going to have to go and change that. Get into the database and go ahead and change it. You want me to do what? You want me to get into the database? I can just get in there and I can just go in, click on something and change the, what? Like, wouldn't it be like, hey, who the fuck who did the chain of custody? Who fucked it up? Wouldn't you want to say like, hey, who entered in that it went to the back to the agency when it didn't? Who did that? Wouldn't it tell you who did it? Wouldn't it tell you who used the computer to like punch in whatever it is that they were punching in? If Walmart can do that on receipts back in 1990, I guarantee you this program would know everybody who's getting in and what time and how they log off, all that good jazz. So that document I showed you where an email is being sent, hey, you need to change. You need to change that chain of custody. It's a mistake. Well, how did the mistake happen? Just pretty bizarre, huh? Pretty fucked up, huh? That's like Tommy giving away free shit. Walmart keeping his job during the holidays. He continues to do it because, yeah, whatever. Nothing to see here. Mind-blowing. Just absolutely mind-blowing. The FBI uploaded the S&P profile to one or more publicly available genetic genealogy services. When I saw this 33-page, like, you know, Bill Thompson, they never give information out, right? This was an awfully long motion. You know when somebody tells you a story and they want you to believe it's so bad so that they add in all this other, they stuff it, you know? Doesn't this seem like a story now when you look back with all this extra stuffing? Bill Thompson and his team couldn't be bothered. Just blowing out my candle. Couldn't be bothered to write more than, you know, a couple paragraphs every now and then again. Here, 33 fucking pages of this motion to a protective order. And it's like, wait, what? The FBI uploaded this, uploaded the S&P profile to one or more publicly available genetic genealogy services to identify possible family members of the suspect based on shared genetic data. The FBI could then view through the genetic genealogy services portal information regarding potential relatives of the suspect who left DNA on the K-bar knife sheath. Why didn't you do that with the mixture? Based on information the FBI could see in the genetic genealogy services portal, the FBI went to work building family trees. The FBI went to work. Really? Because let me explain something now. It's just great. Remember when Ann Taylor asked, hey, here, it sounded like there was a big meeting on December 10th. Tell me about that. Tell me about that big meeting. I always wondered why she tell me about that. She knew it was all bullshit. Because guess what doesn't matter? December 10th, there's a big meeting. Big meeting, right? Well, guess what Ann Taylor probably already had? And I'm like 99.9% positive she had it. She had the database in the discovery to show that Brian Culver's name was put in on December between 11/28 and 12/5. Okay. So, yeah. What was your big meeting about? Dude, they're lying about it all. They already had Brian Culver's name. Oh, yeah, December 10th was the day that we decided that we were going to take it away from Othram and give it to the FBI. That's what they say this big meeting was about on the 10th of December. And I'm just like, now here, helping you guys out to bring it all home for everybody. Holy shit. Another fucking lie by another fucking person. Okay? Matthew Gamet. No, I mean, all of these people just, yeah, what happened on December 10th? Let's talk about the 10th. And Taylor's like, yeah, say whatever. Oh, you're going to tell us on the 10th that that's when the decision was made to take it from Othram. Hey, that's the lab that that the FBI uses as Othram. We're going to take it from them, who has the best people. Best. Sounds like fucking Trump, just Margot, best, Largo, Fargo. Everything's best. Take it from your best people, right? And go give it to who? Your worst people? What, cheaters? No, I think they'll let you go do whatever. But if you listen to the middlemen, they'll tell you that the FBI went rogue. Well, guess what? The FBI went way rogue way before the 10th. Because if you're saying that you got to it, investigative genetic genealogy is what got you to Brian Kober, you entered his name between 11/28 and 12/5. So fuck you and your 10th, your December 10th bullshit. But hey, Ann Taylor got them to lie about whatever he's going to try to say happened on the 10th. It didn't happen on the 10th. Isn't that nuts? Pretty wild. Hey, we're going to just take it from Othram and, hey, stop working on that. Just stop working on that. And that's why she asked him, well, how long were you expecting Othram? Riley Nolan says, well, how long did they tell you? Yeah, it was like a 60-day thing. We were expecting it back in 60 days. So within like them having it for, I don't know, what? You're expecting miracles in 2 weeks? No, they would have never been expecting that. So just think about this logically. FBI just signed Othram in September of 2022 to the FBI assigned him to a massive contract in September of 2022. You think you're going to fucking go and tell Othram, hey, we're going to take over? Unless Othram's telling you, hey, you guys can go do this, but if you put it in other databases, you're going to be able to get it. But we're not willing to do that. I mean, even though we went ahead and did it so that we know, and that's how we knew that we needed to get these other people's spit into the fucking databases. But yeah, we don't want to be connected to this. But according to Othram, they did it all. Their SNP was, their SNP was what made all this happen. And I'm like, yeah, something isn't jiving, but whatever. Ethics. Woo! No. Nope. So what other bullshit are they saying here? The FBI just went to town building these. The FBI built the family tree using the same tools and methods used by members of the public who wish to learn more about their ancestors. For example, the FBI consulted social media, viewed vital records for such birth and death certificates. And look at this shit. Dude, let's just write this motion up. The FBI also consulted subscription-based databases available to law enforcement. I bet they did. The IGG process pointed law enforcement toward defendant. The IGG process pointed law enforcement to defendant, but it did not provide law enforcement with substantive evidence of guilt. And this is where I just cannot believe that Hitler, they admitted it. They put it in writing, man. And Hitler's over here saying, no, they didn't get to him through IGG. They really went the PCA route. How does anybody, like, dude, Cyree is probably going to be having a field day when he's teaching these classes. Okay. So the FBI did not, for example, conduct a direct comparison between SNP profile from the keyboard. Why would you have to write that? Anybody, these judges, anybody, you can't do that. But hey, let's just write this just for the fuck of it. Prior to the FBI's IGG efforts, the ISP laboratory developed the traditional SNP. Yep, sure did. But now what we know is that there was another profile and there was male. And now that we know Brian Culber's DNA was actually in the trash pull, it was actually component 95 point whatever, 1.6, whatever the fuck it was. And so how did that not, how did you not have a match then if Brian Culber's DNA was in the trash? Why would you be doing anything through his dad? Are we going to sit here and say that the DNA in the trash, did it match the DNA that they had? I mean, what? That's really bizarre. Or is what we're really trying to say here is that they really didn't develop anything, and it was all a lie on the timeline. I mean, they pulled the trash, they say, on 11/27. I'm sorry, on 12/27. They say they get it and they're able to have, boom, we know that we have everything all solved on the 28th. And what real forensics was demolished with the real house? Just going back to this is just fucking unbelievable. Pursuant to a search warrant, law enforcement then collected DNA from the defendant via exactly, pursuant to a search warrant. Exactly. A search warrant that you would have never obtained. That you should have never obtained. And it should be, that's why everything flows from it. Right there. The genealogy conducted by the FBI resulted in a lead that pointed law enforcement to defendant, but it did not result in the creation of many documents or records. His name was put into the goddamn database between 11/28 and 12/5. Reading this is unfucking believable. Much of the information relied on by the FBI was only viewed through the user portal in the publicly available genetic genealogy. Much of the information relied, not all, publicly available. Well, what was the other stuff that you relied? Like, much of the information relied on by the FBI was only viewed through the user portal in the publicly available genetic genealogy services and other investigative databases. The FBI did not download or create copies of those records. Exactly, because they didn't fucking do it. That's your sign right there. They didn't do it. They hid behind IGG. And it's because they can't cough up the real reason and how they truly got to Brian Culber, which to me has everything to do with motive. It would, if the real reason came out on all of this shit, then it puts a whole, it's what was going on in that area. That's what it tells me. That you're covering, I don't even want to say that you're covering for a person, more of what was going on. Once defendant was in custody, the FBI removed the SMP profile from the genetic genealogy services pursuant to the United States Department. Oh, now you want pursuant to the interim policy? And then, I mean, can you guys just enjoy getting gaslit like this? I mean, who enjoys getting like literally bent over and railed from behind? No lube. There you go. This, I mean, reading this. Oh, but hey, pursuant to then we had to take everything out. Oh, okay. I can't even believe that you have the balls to write that in here. This means the FBI no longer has access to view much of the information it used to create the family trees and cannot view it again without resubmitting the SMP profile to the genetic genealogy services. To the state's knowledge, when anytime you write this word, bullshit, To the state's knowledge, the only records that reflects the FBI's efforts to create defendant's family tree is the family tree itself. That's like having a math problem, okay? That's like a math problem. And all I have is the answer, guys. I have no way of showing you guys that I really, truly, know what I'm doing, and that I really came to this like this. In 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, we would not, if our answer was right, but we did not have the right work, we got it wrong where I went to school. Nowadays, they just pass kids if you can read like 10 words a minute. Okay. It's truly bizarre that we're just, but America wants us to be dumb. To the state's knowledge, the only records that reflect the FBI's efforts to create defendant's family tree is the family tree itself. Notes jotted down by FBI agents as they constructed the family tree, and any records created to document the removal of the SMP profile from the Genetic Genealogy Service. Yeah, well, my source says that you would never, there's nobody in America that would ever work like that. Okay? Nobody would ever do that. There is no genealogist out there that would sign up and say, yeah, this is how I'm going to do it. Who the fuck would ever do it like this, right? Usually people like to take credit for their work. Not in like I got to go gloat around about it, but the field's very small. It's competitive. And yeah, that's my work that caught that motherfucker. Right? Here. Nobody wants any credit for this work. Nobody wants any credit for getting one of the biggest cases to hit the United States true crime world. It's what people go to school for. And nobody wants any credit for nailing this piece of shit, right? I find that hard to believe. But this is what they were writing in June of 2023. Admitting to the world that they did not get him via the probable cause affidavit. Then somehow, some way, Hitler says he reviewed all the filings in this case. Totally must have missed this one. Because anybody that would read this says, oh my God, wow, they're just admitting that their PCA is fucking trash. Because they don't mention it. They don't mention it at all. And I think staying with Judge and staying in Latah County, he would have, seen this. And it's just like, because they didn't get to those parts with him. They didn't get to those parts with Judge. Here, the defendant served on the state a request for discovery that calls for the IGG information. Here, defendant served on the state a request for discovery that calls for the IGG information. Like I said, this is really important. Ann Taylor filed a request, a supplemental request. This is what led to this filing. This is why, before I even started pulling this up, I said, guys, let's go back over, okay, and look at what Ashley Jennings and Bill Thompson were filing, saying that they were satisfying these discovery requests. They were not. They weren't satisfying any of them, none of them that actually were relevant. And when we're going to realize all of this, and it's coming, is we're going to see it all as it's the slowest trickle, okay? But when we start seeing Ann Taylor's discovery requests, okay, what we have in our hands right now is the dates of all of these reports. Fuck the dates of them. Now I know why they were fucking with the dates of when they actually wrote the report. It's because they were hiding discovery. And they were going to say, oh, we thought that this was already turned over because the date on it said 11/13. And so we already thought that it went with that batch. I can already see the writing on the wall. Okay, these people are scum. These people are shitbags. You couldn't fucking pay me $1 million motherfucking dollars to live in Idaho. Literally couldn't pay me. Speaking of which, I want to give a shout out here. Jamisha Navarez, she goes by Misha. She just filed a pro se filing against the state of Idaho. And she put on fucking blast. She put on blast. This is the woman that was like sex trafficked with the mayor and whatever the fuck else. She filed this and says the court further, because she was asking for an order, so she has to like write it up. An order denying motion to quash subpoenas and granting summary judgment. And she puts on blast 40 some people. Listen to these people that she puts on blast, and I love it. The court further finds that Assistant Chief Jeremy Garrett's wife, Marie Garrett, participated in an online smear campaign against petitioner, and Garrett knowingly concealed his awareness and involvement, constituting additional acts of first-degree stalking. The court further finds that Bonners Ferry Police Department Assistant Chief Jeremy Garrett committed first-degree stalking in violation of Idaho Code. She just lists all of these motherfuckers. She lists the deputy Anthony Jespin committed battery or excessive force in violation of Idaho Code and perjury in violation of Idaho Code by assaulting petitioner and falsifying the June 18th, 2024 police report. She went ham on them. The court further should find that the deputy Anthony Jespin's wife, Tammy Elizabeth Turner Jespin, participated in online smear campaigns. And these women did. They went on these Facebook pages, and I took screenshots of all of it. So she's not wrong. They did do that. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. She said the courts further should find that Chief Willie Cowell committed official misconduct in violation of Idaho Code, whatever, and perjury in violation of Idaho, interfering in the April 23rd, 2024 board meeting to effect petitioner's termination, providing false statements in his May 31st, 2024 police reports and sworn court affidavits, arresting petitioner in retaliation for her protected speech, questioning why he was shielding known child predators, including Rick Alonzo and Gerald Higgs. That dude, the mayor, okay, shielding his own brother and sister-in-law, Richard G. the third. Oh my God, they were like having sex with their kids. Who 8 months later, on or about February 5th, 2025, he finally reported for molesting children at the daycare they owned. Unreal. The court further should find that former Sheriff David Kramer committed official misconduct, criminal conspiracy, accessory after the fact, concealing knowledge of the conspiracy and misconduct. Then she says the court further finds that former Under Sheriff Rich Stevens committed accessory after the fact in violation of concealing knowledge of the conspiracy and misconduct. The court finds that prosecutor Pluid, she knew of petitioner's claims of police coordinated stalking and harassment as early as October of 2023. The prosecutor testified falsely on July 11, 2024 that no basis existed for petitioner's claims of stalking, harassment, child abuse, and human trafficking, downplayed an unprosecuted 2020 domestic violence incident where petitioner was the victim, and concealed family ties to the smear campaign, constituting perjury in violation of code, blah, blah, and Brady's suppression, all disputed. I mean, she just went off, okay? Went off, naming all these people. She takes it all the way back and is talking about how Idaho has been fucked since the 90s. Listen to this one. The court further finds that Rick Alonzo, mayor of Bonners Ferry, and former Bonners Ferry Police Department officers committed official misconduct in violation of Idaho Code, whatever, 18-315, by willfully omitting his duty to prevent police harassment following petitioner's recorded communication on April 16, 2024, and participating in retaliatory actions. And further finds that Alonzo, as a BFPD officer in the 1990s, engaged in unlawful detainment and kidnapping of a minor, failure to report child endangerment, failure to report a child's sex, grooming, and abuse, unlawful detainment and kidnapping of a minor, child endangerment, some more shit, robbery, attempted homicide. The court further should find that former Bonners Ferry police officers Fink and Van Meter committed official misconduct. She just starts naming all these people. Bobby Goad, oh my God, he's a pig. I know I can tell you stories about Bobby Goads and his girls. He's a former Bonners Ferry police officer. Bobby Goad committed official misconduct, falsifying police reports. Oh my God, the court further should find that former Bonners Ferry police officers Braniff and Navarro committed official misconduct, participating in unlawful detainment of petitioner, a minor, in fall of 1992 at Boundary Community Hospital without judicial process, medical authorization, or contact with legal guardian Robert Allen Smith. Dude, she's taking all of these people and saying that this has been going on because she was the one that was human sex trafficked. This is insane. The court further should find that former Boundary County prosecutor and civil attorney Tevis Hall, guess what? He was prosecuting the Brian Drake case, and he fucking just died while he was on the side of the highway. He had a massive heart attack, Leslie, supposedly. My God. I don't even know if she knows that he's dead. Anyways, it goes on and on and on and on and on. And then she includes her own fucking attorney, and I love it. Listen to this. She includes her own attorney, the defense attorney. And guess who it was? It was the same person that fucked over Dan Moore. Where is it? There's all this shit. It's like so much shit. But basically, I've been saying this for a while, that these defense attorneys in Idaho are in cahoots with the fucking prosecution. And wow. The court further finds, based on the undisputed evidence in petitioner's verified petition, sealed affidavits, and supporting exhibits, that petitioner is indeed a survivor of child sex grooming, human trafficking, and systematic abuse, including but not limited to the acts detailed in paragraphs 23 through 28, 31, 35 through 42, and 44. She was like, I'm taking it all down. And she came out and spoke against all these people that were doing all of these things, and they had been doing it to the kids. And yeah, Idaho, great place, my ass. Anyways, you can go check it. You can go read it if you want. It's Misha Navarez versus the state of Idaho. I give her so much props. She's like, fuck them. I'm putting them all on blast. They've literally tried to kill this woman. There's like a bounty on her head. No joke. Anyway, here a defendant served on the state a request for discovery that calls for the IGG information. Even though the IGG information falls outside of Rule 16, without first obtaining an order from this court, the state now seeks, and the court should enter, an order protecting the information related to the use of IGG in this case. What do you think about that? Like, going back and looking at this, like, it's like, what? Like, the raw data related to the S&P profile and the underlying laboratory documentation related to the development of the profile, such as chain of custody forms, laboratory standard operating procedures, analytical notes, the analyst notes. Look at this shit. The chain of custody had me fucking gone. Yeah, because that chain of custody form that you guys needed to switch after the fact in February of 2023. Yeah, well, that got turned over. All information related to IGG efforts in creating a family tree and identifying defendants' potential relatives. The kit that they put in. Information related to the STR DNA analysis conducted using that DNA recovered from the Kmart knife sheath and the DNA recovered from the defendant's parents' trash. That's information related to that. Why? Like, can you believe this shit? Information related to the STR DNA analysis conducted using the DNA recovered from the Kmart knife sheath and the DNA recovered from the defendant's that's why this does not seek to protect. Okay. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, once I read that, I was like, that can't be right. So they'll give you the kit. Anyways, So just want to remind ourselves, okay, how this truly all went down. And yeah. So going back over here, here's Ashley Jennings again. State's response defense fourth. Okay. State's supplemental response to defendant's second supplemental request. Look at this date, July 12th. July 12th. She asked for this on January 23rd, and you're over here saying that hey, state's response to defendant's second supplemental was March 29th. We responded to that within fucking 5 days. See how I was telling you on paper it would look so good? No, bitch. No, this is you. This is you, Ash. The state's supplemental response to defendant's second. Oh, July 12th. Oh, yeah. Second motion to compel. This is when they were going crazy. They had to file so much shit in July because that's when they were all fucked. They were all screwed. Now, take a look at this. I want to remind everybody that now this, I wanted to hear about at trial that never happened, but Bicca Barlow in June the 21st, she filed a declaration, and this is page 13 of it. And here she's saying that from the discovery in this case, it appears that at least 3 and possibly 4 profiles were uploaded to the CODIS database prior to Mr. Culver being charged. I want to know where she got that information from, why she thought that. Okay. Like, what? And this is when Bill was losing his mind and said that this is not like this, none of this exists because we didn't do it. None of this exists. And then this is why Bicca Barlow was just like, wait, you have these people's DNAs that you were going around getting with, because this is why. This is why. Because like any normal motherfucker would think, if you're going and getting people's DNA, what are you doing with it? They were doing nothing with it. They weren't doing anything with it. Like, what are you doing? What is going on here? Why are you going around trying to lift people's DNA and then what are you doing with it? Why was Brian Culver the first put through CODIS? And the only put through CODIS? What? Exactly. Absolutely mind-blowing, right? Just like when you go back and you look at this stuff, you're just like, but we're crazy because we ask questions. And then I want to read you some stuff of when Ann Taylor filed. Okay. Now, again, this is good old Ashley. June 29th. Okay. She's telling this now, everything that we now know, this is all lies. She's telling the courts that, hey, the state incorporates its January 23rd, 2023 state's response to request for discovery dated this date. Like, we're getting everything in. Like, I don't know why she keeps asking for this stuff. Like, we're meeting our obligation. We're turning it over. And then here she adds a new paragraph, or no, she doesn't add the paragraph yet, but as you can see, there's no mention of IgG on this. Okay. Then just days later, on the 5th of July, she files basically the same paperwork. And now she adds this. In addition, the state incorporates the motion for protective order filed on June 16th and any subsequent filings on issues raised regarding IgG. Because basically, Ann Taylor has been asking for that shit for a hot minute, and they're over here acting like they're satisfying these requests. Okay? They're not. And this is just one example of it. Because the other stuff that they're not satisfying is stuff like everything to do with the car, everything to do with Oh yeah, she doesn't turn over anything to do with Nick Balance and knowing Nick Balance and his identity until I think it was she acts like she discovers Nick Balance's name in September of 2023. I'll pull that up here. Now, remember, they got an order to stay 37 days for the hey, because we need to get the grand jury transcripts, remember? And so they added 37 days on. The state had a big old problem with that. But look at July 11th, right after Ashley Jennings and Bill Thompson are like, listen, man, I think he's not going to waive his rights. So what do they file on July 11th? Oh, look at this. They file, hey, we now know who, we got some answers for you. Oh, okay. What are they? Request 1, we're going to give you that here on June 5th, 2023. June 5th, 2023. Remember that supplemental report 196? 7/11/2023. We just discovered this shit now. Lies. We now know this. We know that this is all lies. You didn't discover this for the first time on June 5th and July 11th. Again, they were asking request 1 out of all of the requests. Investigative reports and conclusions from all cell phone analysis. All. Including but not limited to to any analysis conducted by police agencies, FBI CAST team, and other Idaho authorities. They took people's phones way in the beginning. What were they doing with them? And then request 4. All footage provided to forensic examiners with the FBI used to identify the make and model of the vehicle. Look at, they're saying we didn't get any of this stuff until June. You're the ones that provided the fucking videos to them. What are you talking about? This is fucking nuts. They're acting like they didn't have the. We just discovered this. Like it was just provided to us here on April 25th. Then, as you can see, once we added it to the baits, there it is, June 5th, and then June 26th. Wait, what? You're trying to say that all reports generated related to the identification of the white Elantra, all reports, communications, and documentation related to the change in year of the white Elantra, and the CV or the credentials of the forensic examiners, all of the footage provided to forensic examiners with the FBI used to identify make and model of vehicle. They went out and got this footage in November from Indian Hills, Paradise Drive, the Ridge Road camera, 1112, everything that they used in the Moscow area. Number 4. The state has responded by listing various page numbers and file names of records or recordings they have previously provided. However, they do not provide any reports, generated communications, and documentations relating to the change in year of the white Elantra or the CV or identity of the forensic examiner who has identified that this is the make and model of the car. Now go back and remember the arguments that Bill would make. We don't have, they acted like they didn't know who these fucking people were. They were working with them every single day for fucking 6-7 weeks straight. It's all lies. But here, if you're not giving the defendant the discovery, do you guys understand that right now, no speedy trial was waived yet? No speedy trial was waived. Brian Koberger and Taylor on July 11th is getting that material. And then here's just straight lies. There's requests. Here, Here's me just ready for this one. Straight fucking lies is number 5. That's my response to this shit. Straight lies. Request 109. Identity of the FBI special agent that is a member of the cellular analysis survey team that was consulted with to determine the location of the cell phones of his cell phone from 11/12 to 11/13, and all CAS certification records and training records for the involved agents or agents. First of all, they objected. Let's remind ourselves this. Back then, they objected to Ann Taylor's request for this. We're not giving you this. The state objected to this request for the reasons that this is outside the scope of ICR 16. And to the extent that the state intends to offer expert testimony, it will comply with it then. What? Nick Balance wasn't an expert while he was working on this case. He was an investigator. Punk. You were an expert. You were not an investigator. Okay? And you lied. Mr. Culver disagrees on this information disagrees as this information was largely relied upon in various warrants because you were an investigator. Okay? Now, this is the best part though. The state is saying here, because Ashley Jennings filed this, the state has complied with this request and it's provided the following. Bates, look at how far back this is. 14,409. Because you're numbering these pages that you're turning over to the defense. You're just, each time you add a new page to the discovery, it gets a Bates number. So it's like numbering. It's all that Bates means. It's like page number. Look at when she's saying that this just got discovered. Oh my God. Ashley Jennings is signing her name to this, acting like this was just discovered on 7/11/2023. This is stuff that should have been turned over in January. For the first, like, what I've been asking for. Look at what number it is. 109. And I'm like, the Jennings emails with the Moscow Detective Mowry, where Balance's name is talked about. You know who the fuck he was because in November 15th, bitch, you wrote an email and you received one. And then you're filling out the search warrant stuff that based off of Nick Balance's language. And so think about this, and all these years would pass by, and then Cy Ray fills out his affidavit and he's writing all this stuff. And the reason he's writing all this stuff is that he just cannot believe the blatant, we have a much bigger, larger issue here. Okay, is that it's been lies from jump, and then they just keep lying and lying and lying and lying and lying. And you must have to be a blind jurist, and that means the judge, to not see what has been going on. Like, this is, to any reasonable jurist would be able to see what has been transpiring here. Okay, and Ashley Jennings cannot stop lying. Like, she just can't stop. She just can't stop lying. It's in the emails and they use those emails as exhibits. How can Ashley Jennings say that she has no idea who and what the identity is of the, look at request 109, identity of the FBI special agent. Discovered on 7/11/2023. You a fucking liar. All lies. Ashley, Bill, lies. Go fuck yourself. I'm just so sick of it. Because when you go back and you look at this stuff, because this is the argument that's about to come up. This is the argument that's raised. It's a very good argument. And this argument is, defense's response to the state's motion to reconsider the order staying the time for a speedy trial. Jay filed this. Love his work. Okay. The state's motion is concerned only with Mr. Colbert's statutory right to a speedy trial, though it never makes that plain. To be clear, there is no way to read a partial waiver of a constitutional right as a full waiver. Other jurisdictions use partial waivers of speedy trial. Blah, blah, blah. Second, the state demands that the trial date remain where it is without a waiver of speedy trial. The state is free to take this position, but it is one with consequences. In quotes, he says, "It has long been established that a state may not impose a penalty upon those who exercise a right guaranteed by the Constitution. Constitutional rights would be a little value if they could be indirectly denied or manipulated out of existence." The state brought this prosecution and did so on its own timetable. Now that timetable must abide by Mr. Colbert's constitutional rights. The state cannot cry foul when its decisions post-arrest make an October trial date basically unattainable. Mr. Colbert has a right to a fair trial, to a defense, and to due process. He is not required to give up his right to a speedy trial in this matter because the state refuses to provide him materials as to its genetic genealogy search and chooses the protracted litigation involved with a grand jury rather than a preliminary hearing. It is particularly ridiculous that the state claims the public has some stake in forcing Mr. Colbert to either abandon his constitutional right to defend himself or permit this case to carry on as indefinitely as the state wishes. Either the public wants its trial in October or it does not. The state's position on waiver of speedy trial is its own. If the public is to take any interest in this situation at all, it should be to wonder at the cavalier attitude the government has towards one of the fundamental rights secured to our citizens. Next filing would come is the motion to dismiss the indictment on grounds of biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, a lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct in withholding exculpatory evidence. This was filed on the same day that Brian Colbert waived his right to a speedy trial. August 23rd, 2023 is the day that Brian Colbert waived his right to a speedy trial. August 23rd, 2023. And the reason that he had to waive his right, Anne writes, in the objection to the state's motion to compel motive of defense of alibi, or alternatively to bar certain evidence, I want to make it clear to everybody out there that Ann Taylor never said that Brian Colbert was going taking pictures of stars or whatever the fuck they said. I'll remind everybody what was in writing. Mr. Colbert has long had a habit of going for drives alone. Often he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th. Mr. Colbert is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Colbert was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 2022 and early morning November 13th, 2022. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th through 13th, 2022. Counsel for Mr. Colbert is aware that case law broadens the definition of the alibi, blah, blah, blah. Now, look at what she says here. The defense has been hampered by the state's own choices. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than the planned preliminary hearing. Had the state moved forward with the preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation. Instead, the defense has only received on July 27, 2023, a copy of the testimony the state chose to elicit. Review of such is underway. So they just got the grand jury. So everything that was testified to at the grand jury was received on July 27th, 2023. The review of such is underway. The defense had to obtain investigative materials. Remember when she asked Judge, She said, yes, put in the order. We want the 2-week, blah, blah, blah. He's like, are you sure you want me to sign this? She's like, yes. You guys remember that? Here, this is what this is reminding everybody. The defense had to obtain investigative materials from the state's investigative counterparts, the FBI, through an order compelling the state to provide such materials. The state made quote unquote draft disclosures just 2 weeks ago. The sufficiency of those disclosures is currently being analyzed. And now this is where I'm thinking, remember I said, guys, the first question I ever asked Cyree is, what date did you get involved in this case? Like, when was it? Right here, corroboration of Brian Kober not being at 1122 King may be brought out through expert witness presentation. That analysis is underway. The defense has been diligently working to analyze relevant discovery materials and conduct its own investigation. Let's not forget this. They were conducting their own investigation. Notably, the defense had to obtain a court order to receive relevant discovery materials that delay hampers the defense's investigation. That's all they were doing the entire time. They had all the material that they had in the beginning because all of these FBI agents were there co-located. Same thing with Idaho State Police. And they just withheld everything. Everything. Because they think it's a game. The defense acknowledges a vast amount of discovery has been provided. Discovery is received on nearly a weekly basis. The defense reviews and acts on the discovery as quickly as possible, including making appropriate supplemental requests for discovery. The state's motion is an attempt to force the defense to open its work product files and let the state peek inside. The defense has stated all that can firmly be stated at this time. This is not trial by ambush by the defense. This is the defense requesting information as quickly as possible, yet in some instances face the delay of requesting a court order to obtain information. The state continually uses those opportunities to attempt to force a waiver of speedy trial. That is a decision left to Mr. Kober and Mr. Kober alone. Mr. Kober was out driving alone. Corroborating evidence may come forward in the form of cross-examination of the state's witnesses. Corroborating evidence may come from presentation of his own witness, of defense experts. Mr. Kober is aware of and will comply with his continuing duty to disclose information. The court may exempt Mr. Kober from further inquiry. Mr. Kober requests such an exemption at this time. Continued inquiry at this juncture delves into his case investigation as well as protected work product. In support of an exemption, Mr. Kober is prepared to provide further detail in an ex parte hearing with the court, which guess what? They didn't. He's like, it's not needed. Anyways, when you slice and dice all of this stuff, right? We get to the point of, should people, we citizens could at any point in time become a defendant, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons. At the end of the day, for us to have to waive our right to a speedy trial, you should go to trial. I'm telling you, you need to go to trial as soon as possible. Okay? And because in the day and age that we live in right now, you can make a circumstantial case against anybody. Think about it. Think about it. Fuck, man. But I shouldn't have to waive my right to a speedy trial because these fucking assholes are refusing to give me the material. Right? And then they wait to the last possible second to have a grand jury that's right before in May, okay, of 2023, and I'm supposed to go to trial in October of 2023. Okay? And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, what the hell went down at this grand jury? Well, now we know what went down at this grand jury. They fucking lied. This evidence here. How the hell did this not? Remember, this was all a closed hearing. Now Mr. Culver, by and through his attorney, Ann Taylor, and hereby moves the court for an order to file the memorandum in support of motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of a biased grand jury, because they waited to impanel them 6 months later, 5 months after, everybody's been, this town's a fucking wreck. But more importantly, inadmissible evidence was used, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct in withholding exculpatory evidence, and that most certainly happened. This is absolutely crazy. With everything that we know now, to look back at all of this stuff, and then on the same day, all of these filings on August 23rd, and then here, Brian Culver, and I think Ann's choices, I think, were absolutely horrible. I think he has a very good opportunity to say, Ann, you told me to fucking push this at 6 months. Why would we ever do that for a preliminary hearing, right? Push it 6 months. Why the fuck did we ever do that? Then, based upon careful consideration and consultation with the attorney, the defendant waives defendant's right to speak. That means you took her advice. Horrible motherfucking advice to waive this shit. I see a huge ass habeas filing. This is insanity. But what sucks is that if he's a guilty son of a bitch, would I want him to fucking walk out the door? No. Fuck no. But all this shit, this is wrong. This isn't the United States of America. And then here, August 30th is the IGG third motion to compel. This puppy comes now to the state of Idaho, and they're like, well, defendant's third motion to compel discovery herein because we need it to be sealed because it will interfere with enforcement proceedings, deprive a person of its right to a fair trial, constitute an unwarranted. I cannot wait. All of this stuff is going to be unsealed, and we get to see I can't wait for these. Hey, these were all her requests, and to know that they had them all and we're just holding on to them and acting like they didn't. That's fucking wrong, man. That is the definition of prosecutorial misconduct, acting like you were involved every step of the way. Ashley and Bill Thompson were making the calls. So to act like it just doesn't exist, we don't have it, blah, blah, blah. He's freaking out. Remember Bill Thompson? And then they basically put his ass in the back. And then they had Nye come in and he needed to clean up this mess. And the last thing that I would have ever done is, why would I move it to Boise, the capital, where, Judge was giving you the calls. And I like Judge. I'd rather look at Judge any day of the week. I think he's sexy as fuck. I'm not kidding. Who would you rather have sex with, Hitler or Judge? Who would you rather see in a thong? Who would you rather see coming on the chimney? Who would you rather see coming? That's how tonight's going to end, guys. If you guys want to stick around, here's your video. I'd rather see Judge any day. I mean, can you imagine Hitler in a thong? This is. I'll give him this back, just like this. Just like this. This is how he would put his hands all day, like this. Anyways, here I have the. Let's see. Gonna pull up the video. Here is the body, or not the body camera, but the corner club. So I'm going to point out some stuff. This is the 10 19 p.m. Over here in the left-hand corner is where this is what the version that they give us. But in the left-hand corner, there's that door to the left, and there's actually a door over here in the upper right. And where Maddie and Kaylee are right now, they're to the left, and they're going to come into the frame, and they're going to be up close to the bar. And I just can't believe, I was like, this is wild that they went and made all these little circles. And, right. See, they're over here on the left, and then they're going to take the little, all those guys do a shot, and then the girls come over here. Kaylee's going to make her way and say hi to a friend. Right. Yeah, right here. So she's going to come right after this guy that just walked away. She's going to come right to the middle of the screen here. They don't have any audio or anything on this. So she's going to come, yeah, right here in the middle. Right there. And she's saying hi to one of her friends. And they're going to order a drink. And she orders Maddie a drink. And the reason it says that it's on 11/12 is because it's not midnight yet. So it should be saying 11/12 because it's on Saturday and it's at 10:22 right now. So it's 11/12, 2022. A lot of times in the orange jugs, they'll put water in there. And it's so that the bartenders, when they're busy, like, I'm not going to sit here and get you guys all waters. So here, grab a cup, get some water. Usually busier bars will do that. Maddie's over in the back corner to the left where kind of Kaylee came from. So I can't believe that they blurred out these heads. You can see over here to the right, it's going to end up being in this area over here. That's going to be, you're going to see the Hayden kid that almost got a ticket. There's Kaylee right there. So she orders her and Maddie a drink. She ordered two of them. So Maddie's going to come over. She calls one of their mutual friends, the girl that she went and said hi to, because Kaylee hands her phone to her to talk to whoever she was calling. And I think they took like a selfie beforehand, like they sent it. And so she's talking. Yeah. Maddie's back. Here she comes. She just came up right now. And then a little bit into this video, you're going to see when Maddie calls over, she knows the bartender, Adam, and her and Adam have she is whispering and talking to him for a while. And I think that's the conversation when people are going to be talking about, what did Maddie tell Adam? That's whatever was being said right there. It's like right on camera. This is really sad to see. I almost didn't even want to show this video, but I think the only silver lining for me is they were with each other and they were having like a really like normal fun, like just hanging out, being good 21-year-olds. It's just so super fucked up, man. There's 3 different videos, and they're from like them when they first get there. Then it starts at like 1:19 until then they leave at like 1:48, 1:49 in the morning. And these were the videos that they were going to show the jury to show that what time they arrived, and then what I believe is going to be like that they had and were hanging out with Jack Showalter, John Showalter, if he goes by that now. And so it wasn't like some stalker stranger. They may not have known him that well, but he was definitely talking and hanging out with them. He wasn't like lurking around. This video was obtained a couple days later when Lanier and Mowry went to the corner club and had a meeting set up with Mark. Mark was on the witness list, and I think it was just going to be to, for the chain of custody, like, yep, I own the corner club. You guys came in. I handed you guys the video, blah, blah. Now, Jack Decor is sitting back. So if you see my pointer and you keep going back right at that table, there's like a table back there. He's sitting back there when he arrives, whatever time he gets there. And the video actually catches him one time without the little blur. And I stopped it a couple different times to I got a picture of it and everything. So if I can't stop it perfectly, I'll make sure that I post that on the community page. Again, yeah, there's no audio to this. Thank you, Deborah. You've been a member for 30 months. Thank you for being here always, despite this chaos. Yeah, thank you for being here as well. Kim House, 20 months. I know, I can't believe it. 20 months. Thank you both for your YouTube memberships. Kathleen Bell, hey, Lana, you're the best. Don't forget it. You know what? Thanks. My candle was the best. I recommend go make some candles. They're fun. It's a fun thing to do. So the jury would be seeing this with no blurred faces, just so we are clear on that, okay? All of this would be seen just normal for the jury. And actually for all of us that would have been watching it, this would have all been seen. I just truly can't even believe that they blurred this all out. Whatever. Again, this is, what time is it here? Almost 10:30. And then it jumps. So again, the state was going to show how they arrive. Yeah, because then it jumps after this. After 2 minutes. It then goes to like that 1:19. And what you see is Showalter. It's actually interesting. And Taylor would probably be using different clips. Because at 1:19, Showalter's already talking to them. And so I would have liked to see like how that kind of happened. I wonder if Mark was helping them identify people. Like, you definitely would want to talk to the girl that just hugged Kaylee. You know what I mean? Like, and then is Maddie using her phone there? So did she have her phone with her? Because she wasn't on it at all for Grub Truck. I wonder if it was low battery and then it ended up dying. Yeah, that's the first time we really get a glimpse of Maddie using a phone. Was she using somebody else's phone? Let's see. I didn't pay attention to where it came from, so we'll find out. Oh, it's her own. Okay, she put it in her pocket. So Maddie did have her phone with her, so that means all of her steps, everything. That's good to know. I always wondered if she had a phone that night before she got home. Sometimes when you're drinking, you're like, oh shit, I left my phone at home. So yeah, it's Maddie's phone. But I'll show the I'm going to show the beginning of, because that one's pretty much over now. So let's go like this. And I will show the beginning of the next one and the end of it. Let's see which part. There you go. Right. Why isn't this popping up? What the? Okay, here we go. And ready? Okay. So this is right here, kicking off at 1:16. Now check this out. Jack Showalter is right there. He has the back. He's got the Idaho white hoodie. He's drinking his beer right there. But see, right here, he was like already there talking, you know. He just doesn't end up in that spot. So that's why I think it's weird. And I think that Ann Taylor would have started, it showed maybe something different. But back over here in the back, you could see over to the right, that's that dude with the long hair, Hayden, that has that sweatshirt or sweater from Dutch Bros. Here's Maddie over here. She calls over and she's talking to the bartender for a second, and then she ends up having another conversation. Does she? Hold on one second. I want to see. Yeah, right there. So now this is at 1:15. So the bar is kind of cleared out a little bit. They claim that they only stay open until 2. Now check out the interaction between Showalter and Maddie. You know, remember he's like, that's who I knew. I had only just really met Kaylee. And he knew Maddie because of her boyfriend. I swear I think she just gave him a kiss on the cheek, but anyways. But that's Showalter there. And his jacket is back, like hanging up or like on the back of like one of the bar stools. So right there he leaves. See how he like walked away? I think he went to the bathroom. Again, Maddie and him have known each other, and it's because of her boyfriend, Maddie's boyfriend. And then it's also because of the classes that he was taking and Maddie was taking because they were both business. DB says it's so hard to tell. You can't tell if they were tonguing. No, I'm kidding. DB, you're funny. DB's a good one. DB's a good egg. I think it's so funny that they call this place like, oh, they're at the club. Like, it's not really like a club though. This is such like a dive bar, college town bar, you know? To hear when they say like, "Oh, Kaylee and Maddie," or like, when I hear Dylan, I'm talking like, "Oh, they're at the club." They're at the bar. It is called the Corner Club, but this is totally a dive bar. It's not how clubs operate, but hey. I think JLR didn't get kicked out of there, but more or less Mark was like, "Yeah, you YouTubers stay the fuck up out of here." I'd have been like, yeah, come on in, spend your money. All you out of towners, come on in. Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. Owning a bar back in the day, this is way light. Like this is it was like a rule of mine. We dim all the lights down. We want you thinking people look way better than they do and hanging out longer, and the lights got to be dimmed. It helps. The girl that was with them had already left, so she's not with them anymore. She was sitting back over in the back corner, and then so. But yeah, 119. They stay there all the way until 148. They're just. I'm just happy that they had a fun time together. This is just sad. I wonder if they're going to put out the video ever of who's the guy that was being creepy, and you know, if we would have had a trial, that clip would have been shown by the defense, no doubt. Yeah, Cole. He got kicked out around 11. So yeah, I think that's Joe V right there as well. The bigger dude. Okay, so here, see how he just comes right up. They're talking. I mean, this is what's wild is the cops got this right away almost. They had it on 11:15, and I cannot believe that you're watching this video. Like, how is Maury Lanier watching this video, seeing this interaction? Then they saw that he walked down with them to the grub truck. He wasn't, the version of the grub truck, if you don't see this and you don't see the walking down, and that they left together. If you have all of those pieces, how is Jack Showalter literally a suspect? How? If you would have put this clip out of just like 30 seconds of this, fucking boom. You know what I mean? Like, come on. But instead, these cops don't, and they literally were like, this is our dude. This is nuts to me. Like, where's your brains? This is so crazy. They literally were on to him. They literally stayed on him, and they put 7 Idaho State Police cops following him on the 4th and 3rd and 4th of December. 3rd and 4th of December, literally having a team following him around. Unbelievable. I think the other thing that you're going to be able to see from this video that the defense would have used is I don't think that anybody looks overly intoxicated. I know that that was one of the angles that the state was going to show, is that the reason that nobody fought back is because they couldn't. They were intoxicated. And I just don't see that from this video. But again, this is 1:23. They got there at 10:20, and somehow they're just chill, hanging out, taking selfies, normal shit, everyday shit. I would definitely agree that Maddie's definitely intoxicated. But they're all just, it's just hanging out. It's, I don't know. To think that these cops were gonna, like, I mean, what were they gonna do? Pin it on him? Pin it on Jack D? This is wild. So back over here, like I said, up against this, like, I don't know what it is back there, but it's kind of like it's like lit up. There's like a table right in front of that, and that's where Jack D's hanging, and he gets up and he goes to the bathroom. What it seems like he goes to the bathroom, because we kind of really can't tell because it's just a blurry mess. But when he goes to do that, that's the time that you can actually see him. He's got his hat on and his, 5 o'clock shadow. So I wanted to see what kind of shoes he had on. Let me back that up just a tad. Look at Hayden's shoes when he walks over here. I'm going to zoom in on that. And interesting. You guys, I love the game over here to the corner on the right, the shuffleboard game. Once I start playing, like, I'll be there for 3 hours. It's the best game in the world. I mean, literally, they like were hanging out with Jack Showalter and talking to him the whole night. I should say this: the whole point of the video. I mean, just when you go through it, it's Now they move from at, I don't know, like 125. Then they walk over to the door area to the left part of the bar. I would, and I can't wait to get this video. It should be done soon. I can't wait to hear the actual interviews with Jack Showalter, and when he's talking about, like, you know, from his point of view, all of this. Because remember, he called the police department on that. So it was on the Monday at like 10 o'clock when he got home. His parents were like, you know, call or whatever. So he calls. And what's always just kind of blew me away is that why in the world are you sending somebody's call like that to David Hathaway, who's working patrol that night, and for him to take a call? Well, he's working patrol and then he's out and about and he's calling for the murder case, right? And you're sending this dude's call to Hathaway. The only thing that Hathaway was involved in was talking. He was an officer, and now he's got promoted to blah blah blah. But what the fuck? Yeah, here we'll just send him to whoever. I mean, ridiculous. He's not even in with investigating this. It's just bizarre. Yep, here, go ahead. Here, talk to this person. Not talk to Mowry, not talk to Payne or Blaker. Talk to Hathaway. Like, literally, the only report in this whole case is Hathaway taking the phone call of Jack Showalter on that night that he called in. The fuck? What are you doing? There's Kaylee back there, Maddie. And then, like I said, this goes up until another 19 minutes. And it's just, they're just hanging. So again, what I will do is I will put this out in its entirety as a video for anybody that wants to go and look through it. If there's any questions before I go, I'll answer if I can. Do I think there's anything weird that happens in any of this? No, I do not see a fight break out. Nothing. I see people being super chill. Also, I think for it being as late as it is, and if people were drinking before the game and then during the game and then after the game and then now it's 1:30 in the morning, it's like the chillest shit. They found blood in both Jack Showalter's apartment and Jack D's apartment, but it was none of the victims. All right, again, I'll post this video for you guys. So both, I would expect that Jack Showalter's apartment would have his own blood in it. I would expect Jack D's apartment to have, just like all of our houses to have that. Anywhere if you were to go through and I think they lied about how they got into Jack Showalter's apartment. And I think that's wild. We have yet to see any report of any maintenance call that Jack Showalter made that, hey, can you go check on my water? I want to see that. If I don't see that, that fucking didn't happen. People just don't let people into their apartments, guys. You guys are also super nice, by the way. Thank you for being super nice. Just really super, super sweet, super nice person. Look at, see, Kaylee and them, they're just having a blast. Mary, do I think BK did it? That has nothing to do with this video. Mary, the motherfucker said he did it. Why would I not believe him? Do I think that more than one person did it? That's what the biology says. That's what all the lab reports say. Do I think this case, do I think that our rights were violated throughout the entirety of this case? Absolutely. Brian Kober said he killed 4 people. I would say I would believe him. I mean, who the fuck would ever say that shit? But I also say I believe some science, and the lab reports, they're not looking too good to be one perpetrator. The victims, what they went through, and them saying that this only happened in 1 minute and 30 seconds to 3 minutes. No, it's disgusting. It's disgusting that these parents were lied to and made it seem like that their kids didn't suffer when all it was that they suffered. Like, I just can't believe that these prosecutors not only fuck lying to the defense, but you're lying to people's parents that just their kids were murdered. Shame on them. I couldn't imagine being in any of their positions and telling me that my kid was just sleeping and no one suffered. That's what Steve said in one of his interviews when this first happened. And talking about that he can't grieve properly, and no parent could grieve properly until some justice. Like, kid was murdered. Like, that's like unfathomable. And then to come and find out that you're promised a trial, that doesn't happen. You want to have all these answers, and that doesn't happen. And then you find out that, wow, there was experimental marks or something about experimental. What? Like, what? Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Turning 10 people green. Green people. So, all right, guys. Thank you for tuning in on this lovely Sunday. Stay warm. Cannot believe it's going to get cold. Stay warm, though. But you guys are great. We'll see you tomorrow. We got lots to discuss. A lot of content has been put out. I have a lot to say about motherfucking Blaker. So come back this week. Blaker's on the hot seat. We're going to talk about it. Ciao. Thank you, moderators. Appreciate you guys.